Welcome to Real Estate AI Flash, the podcast that helps real estate professionals understand how AI is changing real estate and the strategies you can use to win. I'm your host, Rajeev Sajja. In today's episode, we explore how AI is transforming brokerage operations and giving agents a new level of efficiency and insight. I'm joined by Eric Bramlett, broker owner of a 150 agent firm based in Austin, Texas, who shares how he's using AI to streamline workflows, build custom tools, and rethink how his business operates. Let's dive in with Eric. Well, welcome to an episode 120 of the Real Estate AI Flash. And today I have Eric Bramlett, and I think he's the first guest from Austin, Texas on the podcast. So I love Austin already, so I love him more because Eric lives in Austin as well. So Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd love for the listening audience. I know you've been in Austin for a couple of decades, right? 2003. Yeah. So I'd love for the listening audience, and you have a 150 agent firm. So talk us through how you got into real estate and bring us to today.
Yeah, sort of fell into it like a lot of people do. I was waitlisted to go to UT Law and was waiting around to get residency and go. Decided I didn't want to do that. Thought I would try it out. And I joke that I got serious about it. I mean, almost 10 years after I got into it. So I got into it when I was really young, 2003, and got serious probably in 2011, 2012, when I kind of looked around and said, oh, wow, this is my career. I'm an adult. And it was time to really put my head down. And that's when I founded the firm. And that's when things kind of started to grow.
So is your company primarily only in Austin?
We're in Central Texas. So we're in Austin and we're in Waco.
Waco. Okay. How many offices and agents total?
Yeah, it's 2 offices. So there's a team in Waco, and then there's 1 office in Austin. And we try to keep things as central as possible. We sort of challenge the idea of, taking tons and tons of office space. We are a very traditional firm, and we love our office, and it's a great office and very nice. But it's a common mistake to just start opening lots and lots of offices, and you look up one day and you have all this empty space, and we certainly don't want to make that mistake.
And a lot of people are feeling the empty space now as we kind of came out of COVID and people didn't want to come back to the offices as much as we thought they would. Right?
Exactly.
So Eric, and you and I connected, I think I first heard of you, Eric. I think you were on another podcast or I was on a podcast, and we connected on Facebook. And then I found out that you were coming to, or you're hosting in so many ways, the Mike Del Prete Further Conference. And you were doing some cool stuff. And I felt like this would be really good for the audience listening. So let's start with, what was your first, I know you just told me before in this, technically the green room, that you spent 10 hours on Claude Code in a day.
Yeah.
So you're knee deep in it, just like some of us. So let's talk about, what was your first light bulb moment with AI, and you personal or professional, and you felt like, oh, this could be a transformative moment to kind of reinvent my brokerage operations and how I can kind of move forward.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know that there was necessarily an aha moment. I've always been really obsessed with efficiency. I love systems and I love efficiency. My wife used to joke that I'm kind of a psycho whenever we're downtown walking around, because I always pick the most efficient way to cross this street and that street or whatever. It's just the way my brain works. So in 2022, I think it was, I was on a vacation with a good friend who's super far ahead on this stuff. And he would not get off of his phone, talking about ChatGPT, and I'd heard of it. But Emerson kept explaining why he was so excited about the potential. So I got back and started playing with it a lot. And I won't give you the long, boring story, but I always learn things through play first. So I was, having it write rap songs about my wife couldn't find her yoga pants, things like that. And then, a lot of people figured out really quickly, well, gosh, this thing can write property descriptions like nobody's business. And it can really tighten up our email, and it can put together newsletters. So the first real efficiency gain is that I've written newsletters for years, and I challenged myself to can I get a custom GPT to write the newsletter as well or better than I can? And it was easy. It was really easy to do. Now garbage in, garbage out. I mean, you can't just go say, hey, go write me a newsletter. I fed it lots and lots of years of stuff. I give it good data. Yeah. But then, I looked at it and I said, this is phenomenal. And early in my career in 2003, I fell into performance marketing, internet marketing. And I was really early into that. And I saw the potential then, and it really helped me along the way. And I looked at this and I was like, the potential is as great or greater here, and it's moving much faster. So I've stayed on top of it since then. The next sort of leap was in February this year, whenever Opus 4.6 was released. And I'd been, playing with Replit for about a year and developing like, nice prototypes.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, 4.6 is insane. And we pushing out, commercial grade applications in like at 10 times the speed, if not faster than that. So that's been the latest. And that's why I actually have a separate Claude project to fix my sleep, because I'm not sleeping because I vibe code, until now 6, because Claude tells me to stop at 6. But then I wake up excited and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go do this. And so that's been the one downside. And I don't know, Rajeev, if you're having the same issue, but I talk to a lot of folks that are like Claude pilled, and everybody has that same symptom of the sleep. The sleep is the only downside.
Deprivation, man. Tell you.
Yeah.
The interesting part is, everybody says, AI can give you some time back. The answer is yes, but for some, like you and me and some of others, we're just using that time back to do more. So we just don't have time at all because we are running faster, and that's the phase we're in, obviously. But that's interesting, man. It's just crazy. So so let's kind of dig in. I know that our listening audience, many of them are agents, a few brokers, and I think what you're doing will really resonate. I mean, one of the things, agents are really good with human connection, client relationships, but they may be average at best with tech.
Right.
Most of the agents, again, I'm drawing a broad brush here, but the middle tier of like 80% of agents are not tech savvy, as well as like maybe yourself. So how can they sort of leverage? Talk to me the top 3-4 use cases you see for yourself, not just you, but the agents that you support in your firm.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. And I agree with you completely that real estate it's a relationship business. And fortunately, AI can't help in that way. If it could, then we would be looking at a pretty big upheaval in the industry, but the relationships are what matter. So what I would first tell anybody is don't forget that. And you can probably continue operating the way you are right now, and you'll be completely fine. You hear these extreme statements like those that don't use AI are going to be replaced by those that do. And I frankly don't believe that. I think you can, as long as you call your clients and provide amazing service, like you're going to be just fine. Now I'm going to land this plane, right? So, but I'll be long-winded. Where we're finding most of our efficiencies and most of our gains are on the operational side. So, in the app we're working on, it's MGMT, it's management, and it's all focused on how do we run the brokerage better, how do we serve the agents better. There are tools that agents can use, but it's not going to be as dramatic, right? What I would say that the latest and greatest are connectors, let's call them. That's what it is in Claude. And those are MCPs, and that sounds very technical, but you don't really need to worry about that. Agents can connect everything. So you want to immediately connect Gmail, connect Calendar, connect Drive. If you use Slack, connect Slack, whatever it is you use. There are custom MCPs coming out. There's a tool, Agent Intel, that if you use it, you can add a connection there. What it's turning Claude into is it's turning it into the Google of your life. So like Google is the homepage of the internet, and that's what caused them to have so much success. And Claude wants to be the homepage of your life, where you no longer need to go to Gmail to look for an email. You no longer need to go to this outside application to like pull down statistics or CMAs, things like that. You just have to set it up to start. So that's one piece of advice I give to any agent is, when you get started, connect everything and give it permissions. The most overlooked feature, I believe, that's very, very easy to get started with are projects. So what I recommend is use fewer projects than you think you should. So projects, you want to think of them as a folder system, right? Like a file system. And I have 3 projects in mind. I have Bramlett Partners. That's the brokerage, right? I have it's vibe code and apps, and I'm funny, so I put Z on the apps. And then I have health optimization because I'm a health nut. And so we have those things separate. And then inside each project, it has context and memory over everything within that project. So how would an agent use it? An agent would create just like their business. And then you want to create a conversation for every file you have. So every listing you have needs to have its own conversation. 1, 2, 3, 4 Main Street. Every buyer you're working with, Jane and John Buyer, needs to have its own conversation. What that allows you to do is you dump everything into those conversations, files, literal conversations, right? Like I tend to record stuff on Otter and I'll dump transcripts in, and then it knows everything. The memory is almost perfect. And you can ask it at a top level on a Monday. You can say, hey, what should I work on this week? Or at the end of the day, you can say, what did I miss today? Now, remember, you connected it with Gmail. So it's going to have that information. It's going to have that information as well. And, as somebody who's sold for a long time, there were so many times I'd be laying in bed and it's 9 p.m. and I go, oh my God, I forgot to email that person back. Well, if you have all of these connected and you have these projects set up, you can just ask that question once a day. I feel like people get intimidated by this stuff. And so I try not to layer on too much, because you can do these things, these very simple steps, and you'll make huge gains. The next step, though, is you can set up regular emails that just go to you from Claude. Like every Monday morning, you get your weekly, what does my week look like? Every day at 6, you get an email that says, this is what you might have missed. But you don't need to go straight to that. You want to incrementally improve, sign up, connect, set your projects up, then worry about what's next.
Let me double click on a couple of things you said. As people are listening to this, when you use the word MCP, you don't need to know the technical term. But a good definition for me, for explaining everybody's got a USB hub. Think of this as a USB hub for AI, right? So, and then if you're on ChatGPT, we're going to double click on Claude today, just because that's where both of us are. And I've moved from ChatGPT to Claude a little while ago. But if you're currently on ChatGPT, we'll put a link in the Claude makes it very easy to move without losing anything. We'll put a link, a little document. But if you want to check connectors, even in OpenAI, in ChatGPT, they have, under personalization, you can connect Zillow and Redfin and kind of search. It's a pretty crappy experience, but it exists. Okay. Fun story, Eric. I built a whole Spotify playlist for my daughter, just going back and forth. And she said it's 90% accurate. I've never been 90% accurate with my 21-year-old. But then if you want to move to Claude, to what he's Eric, you've sort of built a whole you're like Google for your business, for your life, inside of Claude. And I think Claude is better positioned at the time of this recording. I have to say that all the time, because these people are chasing each other, is where I think you'll get the maximum benefit. But to your point, crawl, walk, run before you fly. And if you're early and you're just chatbotting, what we may be talking about is step 10 and you're at step 2. Don't worry, just kind of take progressive steps, get comfortable, so you'll get to where Eric's talking about. Just want to kind of recap a little bit. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's phenomenal advice. And I think that's the biggest obstacle people have is intimidation. And they say, this is too much. I don't want to learn it. And you don't have to, you can make incremental improvements. To touch on your piece about ChatGPT versus Claude, right? I was on ChatGPT for years, and my rule is I'm always subscribing to 2, like my primary and then a secondary that I'm testing.
Definitely. Yeah.
I used ChatGPT as my primary for almost 4 years, and I would test Grok, and Grok would be better for some point in time, or I would run over to Gemini and it would be better for, point in time. I never made the leap because there was never a huge improvement. And it's my opinion that the improvement of Claude versus ChatGPT is worth the move, but you don't have to. And as you just mentioned, the features are there. What I love about the landscape is that the switching cost is not that high, right? Yeah. So if you want to migrate over, it's not that bad. But the mental switching cost can be high if you're migrating every 3 months. So you want to stick with it and say to myself, I'm not going to move unless there's a major leap like there has been.
100%. And look, I think we've all had our ChatGPT moments with AI. And I felt like software engineering went through that when Claude Code came out in December, and now with Opus and Claude Cowork, even if you're not a developer, you could do certain things that you're talking about. So there's been a monumental shift in how I think there's a gap there now. And I'm still trying to figure out if I have custom GPTs, Eric, that I share with agents when I speak to kind of just get them started on certain processes. I wish there was an easy way. Hopefully, if Anthropic is listening to this podcast, I don't think they are. But if they are, please give us a project store or something like that where we can build and kind of share it out with the world easily. Yeah. Like the GPT store. But anyway, I maintain both. Like to your point, I use Claude all day, and then I, bump in there for advice and stuff like that. So let's kind of dig in a little bit more into, you talked a little bit about CMA, briefly touched on it. Not just your business life. Let's talk about specific actions successful agents do and how AI can help them. Anything there that you want to kind of double click on?
Yeah, Agents that are successful are, in my opinion, are advisors. They're people that really listen, and they help their clients understand what their situation is, what their options are, and help the client make educated decisions for them. I'm sorry, not for them, but the client makes educated decisions. So it can save you quite a bit of time whenever it comes to that. So real world, strategy. When you go on a listing presentation, record it, whole thing, and you'll have a transcript. And when you're done with that, you take it back to Claude and you just dump the transcript in there. You have not had to take any notes. Will be the best set of notes you've ever seen. You then will have a follow-up email effectively written for you that you can send back to the client. You're impressing the heck out of these folks when they're along the way while you're doing this. We have in our own app, we have the ability to consume the CMA data, the statistical data, and then put together really amazing emails based on that. But you don't have to have it baked into your own app. Whenever you run a CMA and statistics and you're doing what you normally do, you can just upload it all to the LLM and say, hey, I need to put together an email based around this. Here's my opinion on it. You can go ahead and write. And the more great information you give it, the more context you've given it, the better it's going to do. If you are using projects and you've input the transcript first, now you're inputting CMA data, statistical data, it's going to nail it. And your email is going to look incredibly impressive, and you're going to beat any agent who's not doing that. So there's a real world strategy.
The other thing that I've recording a conversation, obviously take consent depending on which state you're in and all that. And no client, if you use the right words, will say no to that if you're going to use it just for documentation, etc. But I've also felt like some agents have used that transcript to get coached on how they can be better next time. Mm-hmm. So there's so many things you can do with a good recording of a meeting, and not to say that you're also in the moment, you're present with your client versus, because people only can listen or write at the same time. You can't do both effectively. So I think it really adds value to your client as well, so that you're fully present and not kind of taking mental notes or physical notes. So that's a great takeaway there for sure.
I mean, to expand on that for a minute, this is a habit that I put together. There was I feel like the old guy because I went to a meeting with a designer a few years ago, and she did that. She put her phone down and said, "Do you mind if I record this?" And I said, "No." Normally would have thought that was a bit strange, but I knew that she was going to transcribe it and use it for notes later. From that point, I started doing it. And now I record everything. And you just put your phone down. And as you said, being present is probably the biggest benefit, but you can't do that if you're worried that you're going to miss things. I record everything. I probably use 1 out of 4, but I don't have to worry about, did I get everything? Did I remember everything? And it really does help you live in the moment.
Interestingly, I give a few keynotes at certain events for agent facing stuff. I've even recorded my entire keynote and had it coach me and give it a grade and coach me from like 1 to 10, give it a grade, and then talk me through I gave it the audience. And there's so many use cases to get better, and we all need to get better at our craft. So AI can power you up,
So what would be fun? I mean, you're on episode 120 right now. That would be great to feed it all of your stuff and to put together like the worldview of Rajeev, right? What's your opinion? What do you think? How would you react in this situation? How has that evolved over the past years, right? That would be super
cool. 100%. And I mean, I put I do video also. If you're watching this on YouTube, all those videos, I put it in a notebook LM. Like after a while, I forget who said what on a podcast on my episode. So I simply ask it the question. So there's so many ways you can digest this information, curate, consume, and we're definitely living in a very interesting time.
Definitely,
for sure. So let's kind of dig in a little bit. If you have 2 offices, 150 agents, you're almost like a very large team. Like I'm stretching it. I'm just saying that there's team leaders.
No. It's interesting. The trend for me, having watched over the years, in 10, 15 years ago, you didn't see these. They call them teamerages, and that's been a recent trend in the past 5 years. And certainly we're lumped in with the teamerages. I think we're in the same category.
Yeah. But you're also a very successful small to medium brokerage,
right?
At that level. So let's talk a little bit talk to team leaders and brokerage leaders that are listening to this podcast. how they can take stuff off their agents' plates and kind of build a solution that attracts agents to them, not just retain. Because of, I mean, you're very tech forward, Eric. I mean, in the conversation we've had. So how do they kind of take a page from you and kind of start down that journey?
So it's a hard question. It's a great question. I don't necessarily have an answer. I can certainly speculate because it's what we're kind of building as we're going.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, number one, make it accessible. And I think that good old fashioned classes are probably the best thing you can do for your agents. You know, there's a lot of bad information out there, and there are a ton of tools. So if you can help like sort of turn down the noise and help the agents understand what they should focus on, I think that's the most important thing that you could do. In terms of what you should do for the brokers on the tech side, you know, you should really look very hard at who you're partnering with. And what is the most important thing, in my opinion, for tech partners moving forward is how open are their APIs, right? If they have an MCP, phenomenal, that's great. If they don't have an MCP, then, you know, a great API is almost as good. So Follow Up Boss, for example, is a platform we've used for a long time. Their API is phenomenal. And we were able to build it into our own MCP pretty easily. I know that sounds super technical, but if you're not technical, you don't need to worry about it. You just need to know, you know, are my tech partners opening up their data? And if they are, put them in the good column. If they're not, if you ask them like, hey, what does your API documentation look like? And they don't have it, you don't need to cancel the contract right then, but you probably should start looking around. And I know that that's what you guys are talking about at Brides. Like, how do you make the data more accessible? Because that's what really opens up innovation.
Yeah, and what I've and just double click on that a little bit. I mean, brokerages today agents create reports from MLS data, brokerage data, all of those things. And if you have the data exposed to subscribers inside of Claude, I did a demo the other day and I said, AI is good at building these reports. Just give it the data.
Yes.
So why are you building all of these 100 reports when you can actually expose the data, trusted data, to the right solution, and they can build whatever they want, whenever they want, you know? The other day I was in a meeting that said, you know, I love your 30-day reports, but I'd like to have it 7-day reports. So why are we even creating these reports? Give the data to them, so that's like the internet world versus the AI first world. So that's a really good takeaway. Anything else that you're seeing on the horizon that people should pay attention to from a agent broker perspective?
From an agent broker's perspective, I think it's important to focus on what's going to move the needle for you. And this is where, as a tech guy, I sound very antiquated, but you know, we're a relationship business, and the more any industry relies on EQ, the safer you are from AI. And the more, you know, you can't leverage AI as much. The more you interact in the real world, right? So like plumbers are incredibly safe, right? Because we don't have robotics yet. Well, agents open doors, agents put signs in yards, agents meet with people in person because that's how they want to be met with. So I think that like calming things down and making sure that people understand that our industry is not under attack, right? I think that's a pretty important thing to do. Looking forward, and where are the improvements going to come from? Well, there's going to be a monumental shift in SaaS. There was, you know, the SaaS apocalypse a few weeks ago was, in my opinion, didn't cut deeply enough. So you're going to see some really amazing innovations come down the pipe from traditional tech companies. But quite honestly, I think that you're going to see the SaaS model not necessarily evolve, because I think it's going to happen quickly. I think you'll see SaaS change fundamentally very, very quickly. And what's going to happen is it's going to become a lot better. What I always use as an example is Salesforce. And, you know, we have a lot of real estate specific CRM in our industry. So a lot of folks are not on Salesforce, but Salesforce is sort of the standard across all industries. And nobody likes it. Nobody's ever liked Salesforce because it's a one size fits all with, you know, thousands and thousands of customizations in the back end. There's people that are Salesforce certified to come help you with your customizations. It's huge and it stinks, and it's been around for 20 years. And what you're going to see happen is you'll see people start to kill those contracts with these one size fits all providers, and you'll see people come in with agentic coding, and they're going to build custom solutions at around the same price that you would have paid for for a SaaS product in the past. So that's what I see coming down the pipe really quickly. It'll be really, really exciting.
Yeah, and I think we're both going to be in Austin as this episode is released April 29th for a Mike Del Prete Further conference, which is basically building AI for a day. And I think one of the experiments there, one of the person that's going to demo that stuff is somebody that moved away from Salesforce.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so I think you're right. I mean, there's going to be solutions that, so I think to your point though, before I turn back to you, I think you need, if you're a broker owner hearing this, you probably don't have someone of Eric's caliber on your staff. If you have, very fortunate. Okay. If you don't, to your point, partner with the right people, because you don't want to get saddled with these contracts, with the way things are evolving, and kind of be flexible in your approach. And the more you get comfortable as a broker owner or a team leader with AI, you can ask the right questions. If you're not comfortable, you'll be taken for a ride because there's a lot of noise, so I think that's really what we're trying to unpack as well. So Eric, you had a comment there?
Yeah, no, certainly. And I'm sorry, I get excited about this stuff. So
no, all good, man. Me too.
Yeah. So that brokerage, and I don't want to, steal their thunder or anything like that. They canceled $1 million a year Salesforce contract. And I don't know because I haven't talked to them specifically, but my intuition is they were probably using 3 to 5% of the features in Salesforce. So rebuilding what they used wasn't that difficult. And when I look at, we've always kept a pretty lean tech stack because we try to do things on our own. And we've cut out a few different platforms in the last 2 weeks. And it's for the same reason. It's because we were using 5% of this and 5% of that. And it wasn't just a cost saving effort. It was that we can remove these dashboards and put them into one dashboard. That's the migration I think we'll see happen.
Yeah. So take one example of that and maybe double click on that as we sort of wind down. What did you notice agents using 5% off, and maybe if there's a cost savings, talk about that. And what did you evolve to with AI?
Yeah. So I apologize because this is more towards the operational side, but
yeah, that's fine.
So we've used Basecamp for 15 years.
Oh yeah.
I love it. I love Basecamp. I think it's a great application. It's really cheap too. It's $99 a month for unlimited usage. So I could strongly argue that if I went after this as a cost saving effort, like the payback would have taken 2 decades, right? Wouldn't have been worth it. But there's high value in one dashboard. And Basecamp has messages and task lists and card tables, Kanban card tables, which is what we used. It has Campfire. It has a ton of features. And we were only using the Kanban card tables. So we just migrated that over to our management platform. And now we have our tech vendor, we have our performance marketing vendor, and we have all of our staff in one location. The visibility is there. They don't have to move around and look at different places. And I'm almost like shedding a tear whenever I cancel Basecamp. I'm going to cancel it today. We finally sunsetted it today. And I've been with them for so long. It's like a long relationship, and I love 37 Signals, but that's an example. We're using one thing. Let's move it over. Yeah.
So the dashboard you built, talk through how, I'm assuming it sort of connects the dots to all of your API/MCP, whatever it is, and visual. What did you build it in? Can you talk at a high level without getting too technical?
It's really big. Whenever so it's gotten so big that I'm literally asking Claude Code to write documentation for it, for use documentation, not just the context. I think it said last that it's at 98 features now. We started off, the goal and the dream was to connect all of our data in one place and then to put that in one place and have an MCP server. So I first connected, CallRail, which is our marketing attribution system. And then I connected Follow Up Boss. We have a proprietary portal, which is where all of our agents put their client searches and CMAs, things like that. SendGrid, which is our email service. We had an experience a few months ago where Microsoft incorrectly blocked one of our IPs, and I didn't learn about it until about a weekend. So we now have SendGrid there. So our support, whenever they get a ticket that says, "Hey, what happened to this email?" they no longer have to go to SendGrid. It's just right there. I think there's something like 15 different APIs we have connected, and then I connected multiple LLMs to it. So I have, believe it or not, DeepSeek is connected for the cheap calls. It's like 95% cheaper than anything else. We have Anthropic and we have OpenAI connected to it. So whenever I want to, run an analysis, I can say hey, look at everything and tell me what you think. And then the chat within there can do that. I can also I have Claude connected to it, so I can ask questions there. Our support ticketing system is there. We have recruiting data there. We have our onboarding and our offboarding there. Again, it would take me a long time to go through all of it. And what I always joke about is that whenever you talk to somebody like me who has not been able to build in the past and now can, they love showing you their pretty baby. And sometimes the baby's not that pretty. And so I always have to be aware of that. But
it's all good, Eric. Look, I can't wait to be with you in Austin. so you can actually give me a live demo of this.
Yeah.
But I think that the takeaway from what Eric's sharing to me, if you're listening to this, is there's a lot possible.
Yeah.
Be curious and explore, because you'll get your. I mean, I've wasted a lot of time. I'm sure you can talk about this. I've gone on a rabbit hole and wasted a lot of time, but equally, I've gone down not a rabbit hole, and it's become a light bulb moment that has changed what I'm building.
100%.
So I think if you're curious and explore, you will get further this time next year as you listen to this and kind of implement, and the key takeaway is execution gets worshiped, innovation gets rewarded sometimes. So you hear all these ideas, go apply one thing today that you didn't do before, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. So this has been fun, Eric. I'd love to kind of wind down with a couple of questions that I ask all my guests. And you've been in real estate, 2 decades now? 2003-ish?
2003, 23 years.
So first question is, if you were starting in real estate today, your younger self, what is the one piece of advice you'd give your younger self? Again, this is anything, AI, business, whatever you think is a good advice for people to listen to and apply.
I would spend more time on relationships and less time on tech. That's what I would tell my younger self. I get enamored with the technology, and I have to correct myself constantly. So
good piece of advice, man. The last mile, you got to protect it with all you got, with everything going on. So the second one is, are you a book or a podcast person?
A podcast.
Podcast. Okay. So look, I listen to a ton of podcasts. I'm sure you do too. Is there one that you feel like has deeply influenced you more than the rest that you sort of look forward to every week or whatever cadence it is?
Well, what's interesting is podcasts are almost entertainment and books are what I get to for advice. So I'll change my first answer. I would say Measure What Matters was the first very impactful business related book that I read. And it fundamentally changed how I thought about business because they have the OKR method. And most importantly, it just emphasized to me how important, tracking and measurement is in order to make good decisions.
Yeah. So Measure What Matters. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. How about the podcast?
Prof Markets once a week. They've got a great vibe and they're real smart.
For sure. Yeah. Awesome. This has been fun, Eric. I appreciate you taking the time. And I will say that I'm going to see you in real life real soon here in a couple of weeks. By the time the opposite. Yeah, for sure. And hopefully we'll grab some good ribs in Austin.
Definitely. I'd love to.
Right. So thanks for your time, Eric. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
If you found value in the show, follow it so you're notified every Wednesday when new episodes drop. Share it with someone in the industry you care for, and leave us a review as it helps us reach more real estate professionals like you.